There once was a barmaid from Sale, who was tattooed with all the prices of ale, and on her behind, for the sake of the blind, was the same information in Braille. Alright, that being said, let's get started on this video, shall we? And started we shall, because on Global, guess what? She's finally here. It finally happened. We can now all continue with our lives. Esther is here, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. Now, I'm bringing my own JP perspective on this unit, what I think of this unit currently towards JP, because you know what? That's kind of my thing. All right, but we do need to talk about Esther. But first of all, I do want to talk about just the fact of what is coming along with Esther, because there are two different things. We have a vision card as well as a weapon as well as the unit. So let's take a look, because honestly, one of the ways to play these games is to get as much value as you possibly can. And I think that there are people out there who currently already have maybe Orlando, probably a Charlotte, and maybe a Cloud as well. And that's the question. Is it really worth getting an Esther at that point? And we're going to answer that later. But if you didn't have a ton of resources, or you were potentially saving your resources up for the future, honestly, doesn't seem like a bad little event. Now, of course, provided that this weapon is, obtainable, just easily, it's a pretty nice little weapon to get your hands on, whether you are a user of Esther or potentially even a user for Cloud. I mean, this does give another option for that kind of weapon, and it is a great sword too. So there's there's more than one unit that can potentially use this. Hey, it's strong. It's just really strong. You don't need to use the nasty R word for global runes. That's right, I said it because I'm just that edgy. But seriously, in all seriousness, I think that this weapon looks really nice, and for people who are potentially looking for a weapon, it's comparable, if not pretty strong. Slash resistance penetration is good in some spots, and lightning attack. So if you can get this weapon for free, because I'm assuming that you don't need to get the character to get this weapon, but that could be wrong. If that is the case, then disregard what I'm saying. But seems pretty good value. What is just really good value is this new vision card, and the dreamiest of eggs, which nicely statted piece of a vision card. And not only that, the unit effects pretty good. We're looking at 15% attack overall, and then for Esther, it looks like you're getting a total of 10% extra HP and a fair amount of critical rate. But even on the unit, just that big of attack boost is pretty good. Whether it's sub or not, that's a fairly big attack boost on a unit card, yeah. As for the party effects, we're taking a look at increased slash resistance penetration of 35. Any slash unit will benefit from this. That is, of course, Thunder cost. And again, you don't need to go all the way to Esther. I think that this is just a really strong vision card. If this came out on JP tomorrow, I would very strongly consider just drop 10k, providing it's on one of those banners, and just immediately get this, because you're getting a lot of extra resistance penetration towards sword units, which there's always going to be more sword units. Guess what? This game is already 80% sword. It's got what I like to call the Smash Bros syndrome. Ha ha ha. Also, just a general HP increase across the board, and single target resistance of 20 is a very good vision card. So yeah, even if you're not looking at dropping a ton on Esther, I think that it's a really reasonable thing to just get this vision card. It seems really nice, and therefore I like it. I really recommend it because there's always going to be more sword people in the future. This is one of those vision cards that I think will age like fine wine, and that is. Now, in the middle of this video, I'm going to give two random shoutouts. Hi, Diggs. Hi, Orange. definitely don't contact me if you heard this message. Message will self-destruct in a short amount of time. All right. But, of course, the big thing is Esther. And Esther is, there's a lot of different ways to consider what is the value of a unit, as I just pulled a really long string out from by my neck. Interesting. Something was tickling the back of my neck. Oh, that's staying in. I already did the poem at the start of this. So Esther, thunder cost unit, 100 cost. Move and jump is 3 and 1, which, you know, he does have thief. I was kind of hoping that maybe she might just get a naturally higher one, you know, to give thief a little bit more of a purpose here, but okay. Precursor, paladin, and thief, I think that's fine. And we're going to take a look at her in terms of like guild rating, PvE, and PvP. And of course, as it depends with AI and everything like that, these impressions might be completely accurate or a little bit off. So taking a look at the accessory, it's good. Storm Bunny Hood giving increased defense debuff resistance by 100 for 3 turns. For herself and allies, I mean, this is good to run on a tank even. I think you could run this on a tank unit, a physical tank unit, and benefit pretty nicely from it. I mean, it benefits the caster as well as the surrounding units, and most maps, this thing would definitely get cast, especially if there's a fair range. Higher critical rate benefits units as well, just to potentially deal more damage, and it has 2 casts even, so I think this is really good. In terms of looking at just some other details quickly, just enjoy the music from another beloved video game series. Pull this up really quickly. Yeah, I mean, the accessory is nice. I don't think it's anything too crazy, but I think it would be good on herself and other units, and there is definitely value there. Looking at her master ability, basically HP / resistance and pierce resistance. This is what we're going to get into taking a look at this unit, is just the fact that her resistances speak for themselves pretty highly. I mean, looking at this resistance, she is fairly resistant to all things physical, and that's good. She immediately screamed, looking at her stats, that she was going to be, you know, kind of against physical unit specialist, but I think it ended up being a little bit more so than I thought. She's going to be highly resistant against a lot of damage types, which will make her a very nice physical brawler unit. Unfortunately though, there is the trade-off, and that is magic, and that was kind of the thing I was scared about beforehand. Also, scrolling down to look at her status effect resistance, paralyzed, okay, I'm happy with that one. Poison, against a more tanky unit, it's pretty nice to end up getting poison resistance, because poison can eat away pretty fast at a damage resistant unit, and it can be a little scary. And the Sadali potential in the future being a little more resistance against charm, I think is also good. So I'm pretty happy. But also being a physical unit, there's a lot of blanks here. There isn't any frostbite resistance. There's no blind, sleep, confused. There's a lot of danger here to potentially for this character. And while 10% charm resistance is nice, it's also pretty low. So hopefully there's another source of that coming up in the near future that will make her a little less scary, because Sadali could turn her. And I want to just pitch this idea of like Sadali, who's currently exists on the JP side, can make a unit turn against the other with his limit burst. If you were thinking of maybe using Esther as a kind of soft or pseudo tank, well, could end up backfiring massively, since Esther seems to be a really big damage dealer, and that could be massively nasty for a kind of charm effect, especially the one that's Sadali has. Now, if we are over and looking at her skills, let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. First of all, Thief, basically accuracy, evasion, decrease CT. So that CT will be potentially good, but since there are, I think Lightning already has pretty good access to some of that stuff. There's an ambulance outside that's distracting me. I honestly think that this is fine. I mean, the critical hit from potentially from behind in her, like a guaranteed critical hit, does synergize with her kit. But overall, Thief is probably there for the speed and the stats, and really not too terribly much. I don't think you're going to be running her as 8. Now, in terms of PvP, however, I do think that there's a lot more to talk about Paladin here. Increased chance of being targeted from a track blade means that she could be potentially run as a pseudo tank. He does a self HP restore, but that's probably not going to be used most of the time. Increasing max HP will probably be good, since everything about her seems to indicate tankiness. And of course, the global version of it, Immortal Spirit, which I'm just going to a little bit over here. Only a single use, and this is one of the things that I was worried about. Effectively, this is good to have in a unit's kit, but newer units on the JP side are coming with 2 casts of this a lot of the time. Doesn't make a huge amount of difference in battle, because once the unit's currently in range of another unit, if it's being autoed, well, that unit's not going to ever cast this unless they are in desperate need of AP and don't have anything to do for a turn and can't just basic attack another. So single use does feel a little bit limited, but it really feels kind of outdated more from a JP perspective, probably than a global perspective. But it is really, I think, worth talking about. Talking about Esther in terms of the sub part of her job, this damage AoE that can cause confusion, as a physical unit that is already weak against magic, I cannot see you running her as a high faith, which means I don't think status effects are pretty likely. More like a potential added bonus, but given that Paladin is so important for her in PvP, and Thief might just end up being far more important in terms of something like a guild raid, I honestly don't think you're ever going to be running Precursor. The other thing is that her bolting wave decreased critical evasion for multiple turns. It just doesn't have... Sorry, let me get it on screen. It really doesn't have that much use in terms of, like, I feel overall. It has a short range. It's not a multi-hit. Neither of these are multi-hits. And that's something else we're going to talk about Esther's kit. But honestly, I think both of these abilities are complete easy skips for either Paladin or Thief, depending on what you're doing. Ding. Next up, we have... That was my oven, by the way. Alright, now let's look at the rest of her kit. And the thing that you're going to notice going all the way down her kit is that she just doesn't have any multi-attacks. That makes me really just not want to use her at all in terms of the very obvious thing. Like, even her Limit Burst doesn't have multiple hits, so her in terms of Guild Raid, I just don't think it's going to happen. Maybe you use it because you don't have any other choices, or you don't have that much in terms of unit selection. Or Lightning's just kind of hard up for chaining abilities in other units, but honestly, I don't see you using her for that. And that kind of brings us into PvP and PvE. So we have a decrease of attack. We have one ability here, Storm Guardian, which can increase piercing, strike, missile resistance, and accuracy. Put a pin in that, because we're going to come back to that one. Reduced chance to counter by 100 for 3 turns for a target. This is very important, so put a pin in that. While increasing her defense as well. The range and AoE on this is also noteworthy. From there, we have a reduce the physical damage taken with her barrier ability and increase AoE resistance. All of this is fine. I don't think it's really worth talking about too much. Physical barrier combined with Immortal Spirit will probably be a really nice combination, provided it is not ever cancelled out. So, okay. Next up, Stormbrand. This ability is one of the ones that does get a improvement here. So we're looking at decreased single target resistance on the attack target. It is a single hit. It does have a short range. 165 mod, 30% extra chance to hit, and it's 20%, or when she hits a critical, she'll restore 20% of the damage done. Alright, so this ability, I want to get this one out of the way. Single target resistance down means that this attack will hit more because it is a single target hit. A lot of Esther's kit is single target attack, which is pretty nice in combination here. The 20% HP, just the fact that, I mean, it depends on how much damage done, but I think most of the time you're looking at about around 2,000 points of healing, maybe. The 30% extra hit chance with the ability we talked about earlier, which is also giving her a 30% hit, is a fair amount of accuracy, and I think that's good. But is it enough? A highly built evasion team might still be able to coin toss this a little bit too often. And the other thing is, while I do enjoy the fact that it has a 30% hit chance increase on this, I feel like the 30% hit chance is on the wrong ability. The ability I really want to see this on is on Bolting Slice, because its reducing counter is really important against units such as Locke, who is a fantastic evasion. And you really do want to shut down these counters. So I feel like it's kind of a little bit of a split, and that might not always optimally work out in terms, because you want the reduced counter chance to potentially hit first to really get rid of those coin tosses of reflex and whatnot. But looking down to Bolting Strike, it just has the higher chance of accuracy. So is the AI going to choose that more often just because it's constantly going to be a higher hit chance? And if so, where are you getting the extra, where are you kind of padding out the rest of her accuracy? Are you doing it off of a weapon? Are you doing it off of a piece of equipment? Are you doing it off of runes? Lots needs to be asked in terms of how this unit is going to be used for specifically light evasion. There is stuff here that is going to be good against light evasion. I have no question about that. But if you look at the fact that her barrier is only physical only and she has a natural, pretty big weakness to magic, Elena, who's already a problem on global, is probably still going to be a major problem for this unit. And if your Esther just comes up against Elena first, is she really going to have the time and accuracy to really get it done? I don't know. This is one of those things where it's going to need to be tested. Full perfectly built Elenas versus full perfectly built Esthers, and see how it turns out over multiple times. Because a lot of the time, battling against light can just be a luck fest of just being like, oh, well, they're counter triggered more often. The AI didn't do the right order. I guess I'm going to die. And that is concerning. Some people might still, I mean, honestly, there's enough here that you can really combat against light, I think. But I don't know if it's enough for me to really just be like, oh yeah, this is the answer that Global and JP has been waiting for in terms of light evasion and evasion in general. I don't think that this unit feels quite as strong either as another unit that's on JP. Dark Leela. Dark Leela is in a much better element with a much better series of vision cards with a lot of extra units that can support her pretty nicely. And that's the question. Who else is also going to be put on this team to really effectively make Esther good against light evasion? Going to be Wotv with Astoria? Are you really going to mix those elements? Are you going to potentially throw in a Celeste against mages? Are you going to be... there's a lot of questions to what this composition looks like. And I think it'll take a fair amount of testing before we 100% definitively know if she's the answer we're looking for. Now, looking at counters for a second, I have to say that Static Discharge is actually one of the funnier things I've seen, because it's effectively Paladin's Guard, literally copy and paste on this one. Incredibly lazy, thanks Gumi. But it makes my job easier. I guess, really, if I was looking at it, Thief might be interesting for the counter with a agility increase to potentially, because she's already tanky enough. I don't know if you need to stack even more damage reduction, and it's only physical damage reduction. The agility boost might be just really good here, since you already have so much physical protection anyway, that this feels a little bit more like insult to injury. And last but not least, supports here. Honestly, a single new support with an increase of defense With defense penetration, all of that's great for what Esther's already peddling, but decreasing magic resistance is a kind of a little bit of a nasty cost. You might want to run Holy Knight's protection for the defense and HP if you're trying to make a tanky thing. I think Thief's Lore is 100% what you are going to be running out of all of these things. Acquired AP, it depends on if her AP is regeneration is good enough, or if you're just going to run bells on her, whether or not you want acquired AP up. Thief's Lore, move and agility is probably just really good here for a unit you want out in front, taking the brunt of a lot of physical damage. But yeah, let's summarize really quickly. Honestly, for Guild Raid, I don't recommend this character. I don't think that there is enough here to really be super exciting or really push Lightning further than it already kind of was in Guild Raid. If you already have a good Thunder Elemental Guild Raid, I don't think this unit's going to bring that much to the table. In terms of PvE, she seems like a fast, speedy character, and she does have some AoEs that are potentially just going to be good. She also is pretty tanky, so if you're just going to auto it, just set it, forget it. Seems like a reasonable expectation with this character. I don't think you're going to have her dying, especially because she's so resistant against multiple types of damage. Slashing, piercing, striking, and missile. Really, I mean, only very certain maps would she be bad on. So PvE, I think she's kind of nice. Not Dark Witch Helena nice, but nice enough that, sure, why not? Now, as for PvP, this is the thing that I feel really uncertain about recommending. There is a good amount of accuracy, but are you going to focus on that for your runes for this unit? Are you just committing bells to this unit because she doesn't necessarily have a good AP increase resource available to her, like Cloud, who can kind of regenerate AP? Do you really focus on making her more magic resistance and trying to counter the light evasion meta? Lots and lots and lots of good questions here. And that's the thing. I don't feel like I have good answers. And for that reason alone, I don't think I would honestly recommend her to most people. I mean, really, I want to see what the people who are early adopters, once they get her fully maxed with a full vision card and everything, and see the results from there. But yeah, my thoughts are PvP, she might be good enough, but boy, that weakness to magic makes me incredibly worried about Elena, because that's all I hear about most of the time, how good Elena is on global. So if that's the case, then fighting against Elena could end up just a coin toss, could end up a very negative matchup for this girl who has effectively no magic protection whatsoever. And yeah, honestly, that's it. That's my thoughts on this unit. So I would put her as a cautionary interest. She's a strong unit. I think she'll be really, really great in the future against other physical units. A decent, if not too great, farmer. But PvP will always be a question of whether her accuracy is actually enough, whether her AI will prioritize the right abilities, at least for a little while until we have enough data to say certainly. I feel like this is a cautionary recommendation. And for people who love Esther, best of luck, enjoy, and I hope you have fun with her. So yeah, that's all for me. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you next time.